Hi, Assalamualaikum. I am Nadiah, and this time I will explain the history of American Renaissance. The American Renaissance is a literary period that begins around 1800 and ends shortly after the Civil War in 1860. And it is a period full of cultural, religious, literary, political, and geographic changes in America. And the American Renaissance ushered in a darker, more pessimistic style of writing and brought about dark romanticism and transcendentalism.
My name is Silvana Hamsah, and I'm from the 8th group of 2018 English Literature Study Program, Roull University. In this opportunity, I'd like to tell you about American Renaissance literature. So, for make efficient the time, let me get started now. So, the advent of a national literary consciousness in the United States is generally attributed to the American Renaissance period from around 1830 to the beginning of the Civil War. Prior to this period, much of American literature was serialized in periodicals rather than as cohesive publications. As publishing companies began to take hold in the States, there was an influx of print journalism and new literary works. Two of the most popular genres to come from this period was transcendentalism, with authors such as Ralph Emerson and Harry Thoreau, or dark romanticism, favored by Edgar Allan Poe, Nathaniel Hawthorne, and Herman Melville. Transcendentalism often had more optimistic tone to their work than dark romanticism, but both fiction focused on themes of nature, spirituality, and separation from civilization. Nature was a popular theme in American Renaissance, favored by transcendentalists as well as dark romanticists. Contrary to the spiritual, positive view of nature in transcendentalism, these authors illustrated nature as harmonious and powerful. In Nathaniel Hawthorne's stories, he portrayed the woods as a dark force. The woods represent Hawthorne's view of human nature. Unpredictable and difficult to understand, in Hawthorne's Young Goodman Brown, the woods reveal the true action of Puritan community exposing religious corruption. Similarly, Poe utilizes natural surroundings to contribute to the Gothic atmosphere. With the fall of the House of Usher, Poe establishes the mood of the work by painting a vivid picture of how the surrounding nature darkness has led into the mansion itself. Melville's Moby Dick portrayed how weak men in comparison with the force of nature. While transcendentalism and dark romanticism both published a narratives in the American Renaissance, dark romantic present a much more critical take on comparable topics. Authors such as Edgar Allan Poe, Nathaniel Hawthorne, and Herman Melville were critical and reformers depicted nature as danger force and wrote characters that were prone to the destructive behaviors. Their contribution to the American Renaissance created a rich and diverse national literary consciousness. Okay, that's all about my explanation about the American Renaissance literature. Thanks for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Hello, my name is Rifki Novianti, and I will be explaining the biography of some authors from American Renaissance period. First is Nathaniel Hawthorne. Nathaniel Hawthorne was an American novelist and short story writer. Hawthorne attended Bowdoin College and graduated in 1825. His classmates include future President Franklin Pierce and future poet Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Hawthorne mostly published his first work, a novel titled Fun Swaff, and then he published several short stories in various periodicals, which he collected in 1837 as Twice Told Tales. The Scarlet Letter perhaps his most famous novel was published in 1850, followed by succession of other novels. Herman Melville was an American novelist, short story writer, essayist, and poet writer. His first 3 books gained much attention, even though they were not bestsellers by any means, and his popularity declined sharply after a few years after a variety of jobs in his teens. Melville joined a whaler sailing for the South Seas on that trip, Melville and a crewmate jumped ship and lived for several weeks with a native tribe. Upon his return to America, Melville transformed that experience into Type, published in 1846. A popular adventure tale that established him as a literary celebrity. A sequel, Omo, soon followed, but Melville's appeal was dampened by his more philosophical works, such as Mardi, published in 1849, Pierce, published in 1852, and even Moby Dick.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Sitti Norma. I will continue the biographies of popular authors during the American Renaissance period. Henry David Thoreau was an American author, naturalist, transcendentalist, text resister, development critic, surveyor, psych writer, and philosopher. He is best known for his book, Walden, a reflection upon simple living in natural surroundings, and his essay, Civil Disobedience, an argument for individual resistance to civil government in moral opposition to an unjust state. Thoreau's books, articles, essays, journals, and poetry total over 20 volumes. Among his lasting contributions were his writings on natural history and philosophy, where he anticipated the methods and findings of ecology and environmental history, two sources of modern-day environmentalism. Be true to your work, your word, and your friends. Walt Whitman was an American poet, essayist, journalist, and humanist. Born on Long Island and raised in Brooklyn, Walt Whitman left school at 11 and found work as an office boy, journeyman printer, and a teacher. He started his own newspaper when he was 19 and subsequently went on to edit and contribute to several prominent New York periodicals. In 1855, Whitman published his first book, Leaves of Grass, a collection of 12 poems that both place humankind within a transcendent spirituality and celebrated physical pleasure. As a hospital attendant during the Civil War, Whitman cared for wounded soldiers and in the months following the end of the war, worked for Interior Department, for which he was fired for the sexual content, Leaf of Grass. Then, in a revised edition, Be Curious, Non-Judgmental,